5 things I wish I knew when I first started taking psychedelics. Actually, the first thing that comes to my mind is that this title is ridiculous, because there are no regrets. I don't feel any regrets, but still I guess there's some lessons I have learned on my 9 years of psychedelic journeying that I kind of wish I knew when I started out, or that would have shaped the journey in a different way. Hey, I'm Vego and this is Psychedelic Actualization. On this channel we talk about topics like self-realization, self-actualization, or working with psychedelics to live a more authentic and fulfilling life. If you're curious about working with me one-on-one, you can check out the link in the video description, also regarding joining our inner circle. The first lesson, the first thing I wish I knew when I first started out taking psychedelics is the power of them. I wish I knew how powerful they were. And I still don't know. It's a continuous remembrance, right? Psychedelics, especially in high doses, are not easy on the mind. Never think you're invincible. Approach every journey with a deep reverence and respect, because each experience can challenge you in unexpected ways. That's kind of the thing I learned, that when I kind of got a little bit cocky and I thought I could handle a higher dose or a different kind of experience, then I got pushed down and I got humbled again. And it's this continuous process of being humbled that kind of showed me this lesson of the power of psychedelics. And also the aspect that it's not always easy on my mind. When I first started out, I thought like, I can handle everything. Like, I am good at letting go. I'm good at surrendering into the experience. I'm open for everything that's gonna come up. But then at certain times and in certain experiences, I came out the other end, out of an experience, and I was like, this was tough. Like, some experiences were even close to traumatizing because they were not easy on the mind. The intensity of the power of what can unfold in a very challenging experience, in a very challenging setting of experience, all these things can be very tough on the mind. And I wish I kind of was aware of that, to honor that a little bit more, to have this deep humility and respect towards each and every experience I go into, not to forget or not to think that I can handle or know what's gonna happen. Because there's always a surprise coming, and there's always a greater force kind of behind what can unfold in these experiences. So that's the first one. Number 2 is, you don't need to fight the system to live authentically. Living authentically is your fight. Focus on your own path. Radiate love and compassion, and don't let the judgments of others pull you off course. The real power lies in finding balance and peace within yourself. So this kind of lesson speaks to kind of the cultural environment we find ourselves in. Because when I first started out and exploring psychedelic territory, there was this awakening happening, right? This awakening to my own freedom, to my own authority, to my own authenticity. But then there's kind of a tension. There was a tension in my surroundings, in my environments, with the society and the cultural expectations and the cultural norms and kind of systems and rules that were put in place. One example for me was, for example, I started taking LSD when I was back in school. I was 15 or 16. And that was tough. Like, then the time afterwards in school and being in this structure and wanting to break out of this was tough. And so I moved into a phase of being very rebellious, kind of this anarchist, revolutionary mindset. And I wanted to show that freedom that I have experienced and realized for myself through these little Satori and awakening experiences. But then there was conflict with the environment that was around. And what I've realized over the years, especially after school, like, school was just like a different kind of category of horrible things. But when I moved out, I kind of found that there's no need to complain, there's no need to fight with effort or with conflict regarding these cultural expectations, but to just stay true to your own self, to your own authenticity, and to your own balance and peace. That is kind of the cultural change that is happening. You're doing the best service by staying true to yourself. You don't need to fight against anything or rebel against anything. But, well, if that's in your authentic nature, then go ahead and fight for your cause, what's truly important to you. But I found that just crafting my own path and realizing my own vision for the world, and then serve in the areas where I feel like I want to serve most in, that's where I kind of feel like I can serve best. And so what I wish I knew is that I don't have to fight against anything, right? Living authentically is my fight. That is my contribution. And to live in this balanced place and place of peace within myself, even though I could see through the cultural kind of facade of many things that are put in place in our Western culture here. So the third one is, when I started taking psychedelics, I wish I knew that as you grow, you'll naturally relate less to certain people, and some people might relate less to you. And that's okay. It's part of the process of self-actualization. Surround yourself with those who are on a similar path, committed to self-awareness and growth. And in doing so, you will empower each other to evolve and radiate that energy even further. So, and this speaks to all kinds of relationships, right? As you kind of tap into psychedelic work, you're gonna change quite a lot. At least I found for myself that when I did the self-actualization and I walked on the path of self-realization and on this path of psychedelic actualization, I changed a lot as a person. And then certain people who do not relate with that level of change or with that different kind of level of awareness, different perspective on certain things, I don't relate to them anymore. And that might mean family members. That might mean intimate relationships. That might mean friends, long-term friends, right? And those might change. You might relate less to those, or those people might relate less to you. And that's okay. It's also okay to let them go. You're safe to let them go and emerge into a different community, into a different circle of people who you resonate more with in this current stage of your life. So this is just something to be expected, and I wasn't expecting it, right? As I moved into this space, that my first relationship was gonna break apart because of this psychedelic work, kind of. It's because of the change that it set into motion. And then naturally, if another person, another family member, another friend is not moving along in that area that you're moving in, you're going to move apart and relate less. And also in general, I find you relate less to a lot of less people in society and in culture. These many people who are just following this normal path, not being aware even that psychedelics exist. There is definitely less of a deep connection to those kinds of people, I found for myself. And even that's okay, right? There's no judgment in that the other is not resonating with my perspective and I'm not resonating with their perspective. But I found that I just relate to very few people in general on this earth. The deeper I go, the less I relate to other people. And still the work is to open myself up in compassion and love to all people I meet, right? Even though we're not relating at this kind of level. So that's one thing I wished I knew, because it's been more present over the years. And another thing I wish I knew when I first started taking psychedelics is that psychedelics are a medicine of love and truth. But love isn't always blissful or easy, right? It's this work of purification that we are doing. So sometimes it's deep shadow work, deep work of purification, facing your fears and the parts of yourself you're not aware of yet. Don't go into an experience expecting only light and bliss. Expect nothing and be ready for everything. The key is surrendering to the journey, letting go into the hard work and moving through whatever comes up with acceptance. And this is how growth is happening. Right? When I started out and I had a couple of these beautiful, blissful experiences, these opening experiences, these awakening experiences, I thought kind of that all of my experiences are always going to be that way. And so I kind of developed a little bit of an attachment to the high, which we're going to come to in a bit as well, in the last lesson. But that it might be a path which is not so easy, not so bright and light all the time, but it can also reveal very challenging parts, very deep-rooted fears of unworthiness, fear of death, fear of insanity. I found that as I went deeper on the path, those are going to come up more and more. Maybe even in phases of my journeys for a couple of years. Maybe there were even some phases where it was just these challenging experiences. This hard work of purification. It's not easy work. That's what I kind of wish I knew. It's not easy work. It's hard work to do this work, to walk on this path of psychedelic actualization and work with these substances in a responsible way, right? And there's great joy in that as well. It's beautiful, right? It's beautiful that it is that way. But I didn't know when I first started out. I moved into this honeymoon phase and I was excited. And I was like kind of looking for these blissful experiences and then being surprised and wondering that there's all this shadow material coming up. All this purification happening, all this shit that I've accumulated that wants to be cleansed out and purified in order to open up to the divine more and more and be an empty vessel for that creative flow to just move through me and work through me. So that is lesson number 4. Thing number 4, I wish I knew. And now coming to the last thing, which is speaking to the area of integration. One thing I wish I knew early on my psychedelic journey is not to be attached to chasing the highs or the peak experiences. Those moments of grace, awakenings, God realizations, or satoris are incredibly valuable, but the lesson is learning to detach from them. Embrace them when they come. But don't cling to them. Don't cling to the idea that they need to happen every time. True integration is about finding wholeness in the ordinary moments, not just in the peak experiences, right? Integration is daily appreciation. This deep appreciation on a moment-to-moment experience in every state of consciousness we are in. Not just the psychedelic state of consciousness, not putting the psychedelic state of consciousness on a pedestal as something better than this one, right here, right now. Our ordinary state of consciousness. There's so much beauty in that. By the way, I'm working with people on their psychedelic integration so they can actualize their life purpose and live in the way that is most aligned for them. If you're curious about that and curious about joining our inner circle to kind of have this community support of finding the integration and finding your way of integration, then check out the link in the video description and you can apply to work with me. Because in the ordinary there's so much beauty. That's what I've realized, right? Giving a kiss or a hug to somebody we really adore and admire, right? Having a beautiful dinner with your family, having a good laugh and joking around with your friends, going on a walk by the river maybe even taking a dip, right? All these experiences, there's so much beauty in them. And maybe they're ordinary, maybe even washing the dishes or doing the laundry, right? All this is part of this marvelous life. And what I wish I knew is kind of that I don't need to attach to this intense bliss that is emerging in psychedelic space at times. I don't need to have the image in my mind that the ideal would be to live in this awesome peak experience 24/7. Because that's just not what human life is. Right? It's always these circles of ups and lows. It's awakenings and ignorance. We're living in these cycles of duality and in these moments of getting up there and peaking and resting with the Lord, but then coming down to the chaos of the mother and living in this chaos right here. And that's perfect as it is. So there's no need to attach to any of these peak experiences, not to chase for them, but to appreciate also the integration and the ordinariness of life itself and ordinary state consciousness, not judging our ordinary state of consciousness. And that's a beautiful practice even that we can take into psychedelic journey, to remain unmoved by the wind of joy, as Bodhidharma said, in the moments of grace. And then also in challenging moments where we feel like we're facing certain parts of ourselves which feel quite uncomfortable. So that's it. That's the 5 things I wish I knew when I first started out. Let me know if there's some that you think you might need. I got my mind rolling and there's a lot more coming, but I want to keep it to 5 for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I love you all, and check out the link in the video description if you want to work with me one-on-one. Blessings!